So let the minorities not just whine and be known for their plaintive cry. You have not understood your own philosophers. You have not understood your own scientists. We can only cry in this country. We are made to cry. The more we cry, the more people who want us to cry are happy. Let's not be apologetic. Let's not be apologetic because some Maulvis have misused the word talaq. Let's answer the questions. And for that, may I very humbly invite Ms. Flavia Agnes to do so.
Good morning, everyone. It's a very proud moment for me to be invited here for the Alia University to be the inaugural. It's a very proud moment for me to be here, to be invited as the plenary speaker at this seminar at the Alia University. Why I'm saying this is, actually I'm an outsider. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not an aggrieved Muslim woman. I have not read the text in Arabic. I have not read the Quran. I don't know Arabic. So in that sense, I'm an imposter. I come from the outside and occupy a place which I always wanted to occupy.
Yeah.
And I always used to feel very aggrieved by why people are not recognizing my contribution just because I do not have a Muslim name. So I'm glad this triple talaq controversy somehow has torn up my name to such an extent that yesterday there was a seminar in the Indian Law Institute. And again, there I am an outsider, total outsider. So everybody there was from the inside of the whole milieu of Indian Law Institute. And again, I was called as a plenary speaker. So it gives me great pleasure that the work I've done for the last 2.5 decades, written consistently on Muslim law, is gradually being recognized today. I have a paper, which is a long paper, and I would read out small portions of that paper. But before that, sir, you have given this opening comments about how much do we know our law. And I was speaking to a journalist this morning, and she said there's a whole article written about you, that you support triple talaq, you support polygamy, you support all the evils in Islam, and you always say Islamic law is good. So I told her, please send me that article. I have not read that article, but I know this is being said about me. And otherwise, I'm known as a women's rights lawyer. I work for women. I work only for women. I don't work for men. I work in the domain of law. My whole mission is to provide access to courts, access to justice to women. About 30% of the women who approach us are Muslim women. So it's not only I know Muslim law, I know Hindu law very well. I've written books on family law. I'm a Christian, so I know Christian law. So I know all the family laws. It is just because Muslim law has become controversial that my knowledge of Muslim law becomes important. But if you ask me any question on Hindu law, I will be able to answer equally authoritarianly, right from Manu onwards, downwards, from the Smritikas onwards, or Christian law, the church law, the secular law. You ask me anything on family law of any side, because that's my business. That's what I do all the time. Either do practice or go to court and litigate. So, sir, your initial comments have made me realize one thing. Why do I say among all the laws, I find the Muslim law most progressive. And no matter what other people convince me, I'm not convinced at all, because even today when we go to court, the way we can defend Muslim women's rights, we are not able to defend Hindu women's rights, for instance. So why do I see this? I think I need to spend 5 minutes on this. Marriage as a contract is an Islamic contract, as opposed to marriage as a sacrament, came to us in 7th century. It went to Europe and became part of the Napoleon Code in 1800. Went to English law, became part of English law 1857. Came to Hindu law from English law in 1955. That marriage is a dissoluble contract. Marriage, you enter as a contract, and because it is a contract, you can separate. The concept in all other legal regimes was marriage is a sacrament. For Christianity, what God has put together, you cannot separate. For Hindus, Janma Janmantara Sambandha. 7 years I will be reborn. I will pray in this life for 7 years to have the same husband. Not just this life. As opposed to this, in 7th century you have a concept that two people enter into something, a contract, like a trade contract, other contracts, contractual obligations. Not sacramental status law that forever you are there. So this is the first point I want to say, that it is very progressive notion. Consent as an important ingredient of that contract. Kabul, I accept. Even today in Hindu law, nobody asks the bride, do you take this man as your husband? In Christianity, because the marriage is both sacramental and eventually become contractual, you ask, do you take this person as your husband? In Special Marriage Act, we ask. In Hindu law, notionally Hindu Marriage Act has it, but ritually it's not there. What we have is giving away the bride. Kanyadan, you give away the bride. And as a property. She's not an individual, she doesn't have a say in the marriage. We're not talking about any of this. So if a marriage is and then we have meher, that at the time of marriage, somebody envisaged that this girl will not be safe in that house. She may face problems. So she needs a security. And that security must be given today. As opposed to that, you give away your daughter. It is not even Kanyadan, it's Salankar Kanyadan. A bedecked girl must be given away with jewelry. That's why we have all this jewelry, etc. Along with Vardakshina, which is now dowry, you give away something more because she is very less. So compensate, you give something more for the family or for the girl. Today we call it Sridhan. But the notion is the same. But nobody thought that that girl needs a protection from that family because she's entering there. As meher you can have it as low as 10 dirhams, but you can have it as high as a building, a security, a gold ornaments, you can have it anything. You can have conditions in that contract. Conditions in the contract written. I want this. I should be allowed to visit my parents. You should not marry while I am your wife. I should have an exclusive room for my use. I should not be made to breastfeed my children. You can have any contractual obligations, means under certain conditions I get you married. It's not there today, it's gone away. But it was there, and there are so many judgments. If you really go back, and I have an entire book where it says all these conditions are valid conditions. Women have gone to court and said, this is my contractual obligation. You will continue to pay me this amount. My father-in-law will pay me this amount as a condition of marriage. And these are valid. Today also, English law doesn't have prenup contract. You cannot have a prenup agreement. Hindu law, which came from English law, doesn't have it even today. Maneka Gandhi wants to move the government to say, introduce prenup agreements. That girl should be able to make her conditions. But Islamic law always had it. That's to what extent we do not know our law. Property. Muslim women had always the right, they never extinguished their rights within their natal family. They don't have to change their surname upon marriage because she's only getting into a contract, she's not given away. She's not lost her individuality. So her rights in this home are intact. Even after divorce, she can come back here. She has a right and she knows it. It's not that Muslim women get the property rights. Same way Hindu women also do not get their property rights, but Hindu women got their ancestral property rights in 2005. As it is that. And compared to 7th century to 2005. Muslim women are not given the rights. But Muslim women feel a sense of deprivement. I have a Quranic right. My brother has deprived me of my right. As opposed to a Hindu girl who says, no, it's after all my brother. It's all my brother's right. So it's okay if he doesn't give me. She will never ask for it. Muslim woman also will not ask for it, but if you talk to her, she says, I had this right. My brother did not give me. So to what extent women are able to understand their own rights or the notion of rights. Now if women are uneducated, if they are illiterate, they do not know, of course they do not know. So we have to tackle illiteracy and not bring in something new. So regarding divorce, the contract can be dissolved by the woman herself as khula. Again, Hindu women get a right of divorce in 1955. As it is that. Christian women get a right much earlier because of the English law, but they do not get a right to dissolve their marriage on the ground of cruelty alone till 2001. Whereas Islamic law always had that a woman can dissolve her marriage, she can get a khula without a reason. If she is not happy in that marriage, she can dissolve that marriage. Various other forms are there. There's so many forms and you will be aware of it better than me. But there's talaq-i-tafiz, there is khula, there is various other forms. But the marriage can be dissolved, is an integral part, and talaq comes part of that. The man can dissolve, a woman can dissolve. A woman can take khula, but man has to have these conditions, arbitration, they should come together, they should try to resolve their differences. Again, arbitration prior to divorce is an Islamic contract which is now part of a family courts. When you file for divorce in a family court, first thing you have to go to a counselor. You have to see whether your marriage can be amended. You can come together. And Islam has it ingrained within the Quran itself. So now you put all of this and you compare it with Hindu law, and according to me, Muslim law is progressive. And that's why I keep saying Muslim law is progressive. Now, more than that, let us come to acts. There is a particular act called Muslim Women's Act, 1986. This came after the Shah Banu judgment. Now there is a whole hue and cry that this act is against women because it has taken them out of 125 CRPC maintenance. So it is unconstitutional. So everybody rushed to court, declare this law unconstitutional. But in 2001, the Supreme Court, a constitution bench, held the act as constitutional, and yet in progressive circles, in women's study circles, women's organization, or after Shah Banu, that Muslim Women's Act has taken away the rights. According to me, that act has given women the rights. And what is the right? Fair and reasonable settlement upon divorce. Not a maintenance dole. Every month, 200 rupiah, 500 rupiah, no. You give a lump sum settlement to her. He has to give it within the 3 months of the either period. If he is not given, then she can go to court and ask for this right. So the talaq does not extinguish her economic rights. Talaq bol diya, sab khatam ho. No, it doesn't extinguish her rights at all. And this act was held valid in 2001. Then talaq we come to. Fazlur Rahman will speak more about it, but my only thing is Shamim Ara Supreme Court Constitutional Bench declared it in 2002. But we do not know, our journalist friends do not know. Our enlightened journalist friends, all of them going and seeking, talking to women who are talaq here or there, finding them, they do not know. NGOs working with them do not know. And we have created an image that Muslim women have no rights because husband can pronounce talaq. But if you're a lawyer like me, you will go to court, ask the woman, what do you want? Do you want your rights keeping a marriage intact, or do you want your rights dissolving this marriage? Because why do you want to stay with a husband who's been so abusive towards you? The marriage is not permanent. So you want economic rights, we'll secure your economic rights under the Muslim Women's Act. We will secure economic rights under Domestic Violence Act. Each woman who's gone to court has a long history of domestic violence. She has done nothing about it. She's been beaten. She's been thrown out of the house. She's been deprived of the access to her children. We're not addressing any of that. We are saying that the husband must not pronounce talaq. That's all. As if by that magic wand, all her other problems will solve. And she will now become liberated because there is no talaq. But she may be like a PM's wife, deserted woman. And the PM is saying, I'm not politicizing the issue. He set a model that as a Hindu, you can abandon your wife, you can desert your wife, you can keep her hanging, she cannot remarry, and she will not be getting maintenance, and she'll be left there. How easy it is this? If the court tomorrow says this, अपना बीबी को तलाक मत देना, उसका हिस्सा abandon करो. The debate is not on protecting women's rights at all. It's only on making talaq, stop the triple talaq. Fine, okay, then what? Then what? Okay, over 3 months. Fine, then what? Are you stopping violence? Are you stopping domestic violence? Are you stopping all these other abuses that happen to Muslim women, Hindu women, Christian women, all women? Are you stopping that by doing this? Or are you only politicizing the issue? Why are you shedding so much tears, including a Prime Minister? I cry for my Muslim women. I say cry for your wife, first of all. Then cry for Muslim women. Charity begins at home. Nobody is questioning. No media has the guts to write about it. Because they will be blocked, their news will be blocked. They can only write about Muslim women. So we can only read about Muslim women. I'll give you a small example what happened, what cases I'm dealing with. This is a case in Mumbai. It happened on Good Friday. A 17-year-old girl was being stalked by one of the Basti neighbors, Dalit girl. On Good Friday, the man came with a can of petrol. He put the petrol on her. She had the alertness of mind. She ran away and she put some water on her body. The man put the petrol on the girl's mother, 40-year-old. She suffered 95% burns. There was a child, 2-year-old, next to them. The child was burned 35%. The child's mother who came to pick up the child was burned 45%. 1 week later, the child died. On Friday, after 15 days, the 40-year-old woman died. And the other woman is very critical. Media doesn't mention this. Why? We mention so much Nirbhaya. We mention Shakti Mill's case. But we don't mention this because it's got no news value. It has no news value that a Dalit girl's mother is burnt not by acid, by petrol. But we made a law for acid burning and gang rape. This is pure murder. Somebody has thrown petrol on that girl. No news, not in Mumbai, not anywhere. But if the talaq is pronounced some remote village in West Bengal, it will come front page in Mumbai. Front page news. And we all read it. And we say, oh my God, see this poor Muslim woman. She has been now given divorce. Some woman is burnt to death by her husband. And he's Hindu. Such a horrible thing, burnt to death. No news value. Because today we're not writing about Hindu women at all. Our only concern is Muslim women because this is what the media has decided. Media has decided what the government wants, what the Prime Minister wants, that we will foreground that Muslim women have no rights. So if we say Muslim women have rights, it has no news value at all. So we can have case studies, we can have newspaper reports, we can have TV shows, room full of Muslim women we can bring from here and there, burqa clad, and they will cry about the triple talaq because that is what public wants to hear. That is what the whole nation wants to hear. That look, Muslim women have no rights. And the Muslim women are participants in this. Muslim women have initiated this. Earlier, if only BJP was doing it, it wouldn't have happened. You know, during colonialism, how India lost out was not because the colonial rulers were so smart. Because there were so many traitors in the princely kingdoms who wanted power, who wanted to get a stake. So because of them, the kingdoms lost out. So similarly, Muslim women's issue, there had to be Muslim women raising this issue. Because BJP could not interfere. Today, what we can say, 1 lakh Muslim women want it. Muslim women in the country want it. So we play a number game. Board also plays a number game. These people say 1 lakh. Board says we have 10 crore signatures. So who do you represent? Why do you represent? How do you represent? All this doesn't matter for the media. Because triple talaq has become the typical low-lying fruit that everybody can pick and write about it. This is the most common thing, and we read about it. And we believe the news that we read. We see the news on the TV and we believe it. So I just want to read small 3 passages here. This is first is a scholar from Hyderabad, B.S. Sharif. It is her paper. It is truly unfortunate that Muslim women's identity is highlighted only in terms of...
Closer to the mic.
But there's no light there. There's no light, I cannot see. It's very unfortunate that Muslim women's identity is highlighted only in terms of personal laws, especially after the Shah Banu case. This overarching focus on personal laws presents any improvement of Muslim women's lives as content, but their voices do not receive larger audience. The recent appearance of articulate practicing Muslim women challenging the so-called progressive voices has been written off as motivated by patriarchal forces or indoctrinated. Another Muslim woman writes, despite a large number of positive court judgments in favor of Muslim women, the media prefers to endorse the view that once the husband pronounces talaq, the wife is stripped of all her rights. We are witnessing a phase where the terms of the debate are pre-decided. It's Islamic law versus secular law, the archaic versus the modern, the oppressive versus the civilized. Without even a cursory glance at the thousands of Indian Muslim women who file cases in courts for enforcement of their rights under various legal provisions, such as the Domestic Violence Act 2005, the Prevention of Dowry Act 1961, or maintenance under Section 125 of the CRPC. Articles by experts, while focusing on the need to declare instantaneous triple talaq invalid, pay little attention to the rights laboriously secured from the trial courts, the high courts, and even the Supreme Court by many Muslim women. Another scholar, Kancha Ilaya, he's a Dalit activist who has written the book Why I'm Not a Hindu, talks about the atmosphere prevailing on the campus of the Maulana Azad National Urdu University, Hyderabad. The sudden discovery that every Muslim woman is facing triple talaq and the urgency to bring about a uniform civil code to save Muslim women scares them. One case of one Muslim woman in the Supreme Court is being projected as if every Muslim woman after the BJP came to power is facing triple talaq and the UCC is the solution. Now the discussion among them in small groups is not about their vikas, but about their fear. The women teachers and non-teachers I talk to tell these are not their major problems. They say our major problems are education in English and Urdu and jobs in the market. I see many of them feel lost in the present situation. They're lost because Lalita Kumaramangalam, chairperson of the National Women's Commission, and all other ruling Hindu women keep telling the nation that they're worried about the divorced Muslim woman more than the Dalit woman getting raped on a daily basis. They're also not at all worried about the young and old Hindu widows living a pre-Raja Mohan Roy life in Varanasi rat hole called the Vrindavan. Now these people are writing, but you won't read it because it's not in the mainstream paper. You have to look for it. You have to search for it. So in this context, I think my friend Faizur Rahman will talk about the legal developments and also why this issue has come, how this issue has come. I have a lot to say about it, but I think I digressed from this paper to give you an overview of the Muslim family law. as it is there, as it is practiced in India. But when I say this to people, when I say this to journalists, Shami Maharaj judgment is there. I don't know. So I said, you are an enlightened person. You are a media person. Why don't you know? Isn't it your duty to know? But what the media did in 2001, 2002, they never highlighted any positive judgments regarding Muslim law. What they did was most negative, like the Imrana judgment, the father-in-law raping the daughter-in-law, that became a big issue. Najma Bibi case became big issue. Gudiya case became big issue on television. But Supreme Court held, laid down the procedure for triple talaq, was no news at all. It was deliberately suppressed by the media. So the today's journalists do not know about it at all. So when I ask anybody, so you're supposed to know this, right? No, ma'am, I do not know this. But you're doing a story on triple talaq. Why don't you know this? It doesn't become their business at all. At all. If they talk, and that's Shami Maharaj judgment is a 5 bench judgment, constitutional bench judgment. Daniel Latifi came 2001, Shami Maharaj came 2002. These were landmark, game-changing judgments. Somebody, a lawyer like me, no, I have written again and again, but whatever I've read also made no sense. It not reached anybody because it was not the concern of the media. So this is how media formulates things. If they had written about it then, today the issue would not have come that women have no rights, women have no rights. So when I say this, what people say, but madam, today also this question, journalists ask me this morning only, but everybody is not like you. Then become like me, no. Simple. Women are not aware. The answer to that is make women aware, no? Women have no access to courts. Then give access to women. Make access to women your issue. Make awareness your issue. You're doing so much TV debate. Why are you not creating awareness? Instead of saying triple talaq and crying over it, why are you not telling women, if you have talaq, these are your rights. This is where your rights are located and this is how you must do. There are no lawyers. But there's legal aid. There's in a country free legal aid. No, legal aid is not working. So make legal aid work, no? You have a problem, but your answer is somewhere else only. Ban triple talaq. So my final thing is, okay, ban triple talaq. Then what? Shaira Banu's 15 years of domestic violence will stop with that. Her husband will take her back. Her marriage will be resumed. She wants to go back to the same husband. Every woman who has gone to Supreme Court doesn't want to go back to the same husband because the husband is extremely abusive towards her. There's so much domestic violence. So Shaira Banu has given a statement, I will go to the civil court and get a proper divorce. You know how much a proper divorce costs? You have to go to a lawyer, you have to struggle it out in the trial court. You have already talaq, but you don't want that talaq, but you want some other talaq. How does it improve your life? If you put that woman at the center stage and ask the question, what does this woman want? Of course she wants a right. What is the right? To be married to an abusive man? Or to stop the violence? To get her rights, economic rights, to get her security, right to stay in the house, right to get maintenance, end the marriage, get her children. Concentrate on that. According to me, the whole debate is skewed debate. And the whole debate is a political debate. And it is catering to a particular agenda of the media, that of Muslim bashing. It is catering to a particular agenda of the ruling government, which is Muslim bashing. And the media is the prime player in this. And that is why we have this situation. Thank you.
Before I invite Mr. Rahman, is there anybody from the Urdu press here? मैं चाहूँगा कि पूरी स्पीच आप कवर करें, इख्तिबासात के साथ नहीं। मिस एग्नेस ने जो भी कुछ कहा है वो आपके कौम के लिए है, आपकी कौम की औरतों के लिए, लड़कियों के लिए, माँओं बहनों के लिए है। कल सियासी कौन मिनिस्टर कहाँ जा रहा है, कितनी घूस ले रहे हैं, उसको छोड़कर इसको कवर कीजिएगा तो हमारी बहनें भी पढ़ेंगी। और मैं मुस्लिम ख़वातीन से सिर्फ एक सवाल करना चाहता हूँ, अगर आप मेरे पीछे खड़ी रहेंगी आज इस सेमिनार के बाद, ताकि मैं मार नहीं खाऊं मर्दों से, तो आपकी खिदमत में एक बात कहना चाहूँगा। कहूँ? सुनिए, नान और नफके का मतलब क्या होता है? जो निकाहनामा में आप पढ़ते हैं, नान नफका। नान का मतलब रोटी, नफका का मतलब पहनावा। आपका हक बनता है कि आप अपने शौहर से आज घर में इस सेमिनार के बाद से जाके कहें खाना नहीं पकाएंगे, लेके आओ। उसका इस्लामिक फर्ज बनता है लाके देना। ये भी बताया कीजिए औरतों को। हम मर्द हैं, सोसाइटी चलाएंगे, सब चलाएंगे, जो चाहेंगे मनमानी करेंगे। ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा होगा तो फिर तलाक 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 करके मामला ख़त्म कर देंगे, जिसका फ़ायदा दूसरे लोग उठाएंगे। तो नान और नफके का मतलब होता है पका हुआ खाना। चक्की पीसना नहीं, आटा गूंदना नहीं, रोटी सेकना नहीं। आज करके देखिए ना अपने घर में, सब अपने अपने हवास में आ जाएंगे, फिर कभी तक ट्रिपल तलाक की नौबत नहीं आएगी। Now let me invite Mr.
Sir, I just want to say one thing. I do a lot of teacher training. So I talked about Meher. So there were a few Muslim women. So I said, oh, do you have Meher? Yeah, ma'am. How much? 5 lakhs, 1 lakh. What happened? Nothing. I never asked and never gave. I said, why don't you go home today and tell him that give my Meher today? And everybody challenged. They said, you must do that. Go home and ask the Meher. Because you're supposed to ask it. He's supposed to give you at wedding, but he didn't give. Now you ask him. नहीं 5 lakhs तो लिखा है, तो 5 lakhs लिखा है तो मांगो ना 5 lakhs. Women are, they know that 5 lakhs is written, educated, they are teachers, they are professors. But they'll all cry, we need UCC because Muslim women have no rights. We want to ban triple talaq because Muslim women have no rights. I agree, Muslim women have no rights. All women have no rights.
तलाकनामे में लिखा है तलाक तफवीज है कि नहीं है? लड़की का बाप अच्छा छी 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 नहीं है, नहीं है। क्यों? लड़की से पूछा आपने? एक्सरसाइज उसको करना है, किसी लड़की से पूछा गया कि इसमें हाँ लिखें या ना लिखें? बाप चच्चा होता कौन है डिसाइड करने वाला? यहाँ उठना होगा, अपने गिरबान में झांकना होगा। सिर्फ और सिर्फ हुकूमत को गाली देने से नहीं होगा, हालांकि हुकूमत इस लायक है कि उसको गाली दिया जाए, ये गलत मौजूद, मगर अपना मुहासबा भी करना होगा। तलाक बिला तफवीज देंगे नहीं आप। नान नफके का माने आपको नहीं मालूम है। देन मोहर, एक नई चीज सुनने में आती है, देन मोहर। ये क्या है भैया? मेहर हो गया, देन मोहर। देन बाद में, लड़की भी नहीं लेती है, मेरा शौहर कैसे मांगेंगे? अरे अपना हक नहीं इस्तेमाल पहले रात में कर लो, वलीमे से पहले। कहां गया मेरा दहर मेहर? और वो उसका हक बनता है। आपने 10 करोड़ रखा है और अपने पैसा दिया है, वो आपके सामने माचिस लगा दे उस रुपये को, आप उफ तक नहीं कर सकते हैं। यह है इस्लाम। पेश क्या किया गया है? दूसरा, मैं चाहूंगा मीडिया वालों से, उर्दू मीडिया वालों से मैंने कहा, और एक साहब यहाँ MP भी हैं, मीडिया के नामी गिरामी हस्ती भी हैं, मिस एग्निस की पूरी तकरीर और इंशाअल्लाह रहमान साहब की तकरीर छापिए, ताकि वो औरतें जो इस सेमिनार में नहीं आ पाई हैं उन तक ये बात पहुंचे। और हम मर्दों पर ये बात, अपनी जिम्मेदारी, आपको आज एक रेजोल्यूशन करके जाना होगा कि अब तक जो हम लोग कूड़े को कालीन के नीचे फेंकते गए हैं, अब घर के बाहर से निकाल के कम से कम ईमानदाराना जिंदगी गुजारेंगे, जहां तक बीवी के हक